Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to another Unity tutorial series. This one is going to be on object pooling. So what is object pooling? Object pooling is a concept used where, let's say you're making a shooter, and you're going to be shooting out multiple bullets. And currently a way to do this inside of Unity is you instantiate a game object into the scene, which is your bullet. It'll continue to move in whatever direction you choose, and then eventually it's going to be destroyed, whether it's going to be after a certain amount of time or if it collides with something. Well, it takes a lot of your CPU whenever you go and instantiate and destroy objects back and forth multiple times. Object pooling is completely different in regards it only instantiates when you need it to be instantiated, and there is no destruction. You just set the objects to not being active inside the hierarchy. So essentially, you're turning on game objects and then you're turning them off. So in this tutorial, this is what I'm going to show you how to do. So let's go ahead and start with a new empty game object. And we'll call it game controller. Okay, what we're going to want to do first is let's go ahead and make a prefab folder. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to input a sprite that we are going to use as the object. See if I can. Right there it is. Okay, and we'll drop it in here. So we got us a little fireball. So I'm gonna come into here. When you get your little fireball, we're gonna go set it up. Point, no filter, 2D. This is gonna be bright. Leave that as pixel per unit. You can leave that alone. It's not gonna be important for this tutorial. And then this will be 256. Done. And automatic match, will leave that alone. Hit apply. And now we got a little fireball. Oh, let's go and fix this real quick. It gets us in trouble. There we go. Alright, so we got a little fireball here. So let's go ahead and create a script. And we'll call it game controller. Oh. We will open and double click it. Open it up in Visual Studio. Okay, wait for it to open. Little opening. So, go ahead and get that. While that's loading, we can do anything. I gotta wait for it to load. And it loaded, but it popped up on the other screen. What we're gonna do, drag it over here. Bam. Alright, so here's our game controller. It's the mono behavior. So we're gonna have it attached to a script. So what are we gonna need? Well, what we're gonna do is we'll need an instance of a prefab that we want to instantiate, right? We'll do public game object, and we'll do fireball prefab. Alright, got the fireball prefab. And then let's say on update, we want to go ahead and we want to just, for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to spawn fireballs wherever I click the mouse at. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into here and say if input Get mouse button down. So whenever I left click the mouse, which 0 is going to be your left mouse button, come into here. If we do that, we're going to grab a vector 3, call it mouse position. We're going to set it to input.mouse position. So we're going to get where the mouse position is on the screen. But it's not going to be that simple. We have to do a little bit of moving around to get it to where we want it in world coordinates. So right now we got it in put dot contain, doesn't contain a definition. Right there. Oh. Mouse position. Click. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll cache that. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this mouse position. We're going to set it Z equal to the main camera. Camera.main.transform.position.z times -1. Basically, we just want to go and make the Z position. The camera's current position is negative. If you notice inside of Unity, you'll notice that the main camera is at -10. So when we get this position, what we're going to do is multiply times -1. It's going to make it +10 because you want the mouse position in front of the camera. So vector 3 spawn location where we want it to spawn at. We're going to set it to camera dot main dot screen to world. We want the screen coordinates to the world point, and we want to do that on this mouse position. Okay, go ahead and fix vector 3 here. All right, here, so we got the screen coordinates. What do we want to do now? Now we want to go and create a copy game object. We'll call it projectile, be the fireball, and then we'll set it to, take that back, we're just going to instantiate it. Instantiate fireball prefab. Here. That. Okay, so the fireball has been fixed. And then now we need to give it a spawn location. And we're going to give it the rotation that we're going to set inside. So what this is going to do is it's going to say, hey, when you left click, grab the mouse position, instantiate a fireball at the position. That's all this is going to do. So we'll come over here. We're going to go over here. File. We're going to go on game controller. We're going to add the game controller script to it. We don't have a fireball yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag. We will go and create a prefab out of our fireball. So wait for this to click. Drag this into the scene. And now all we got is an empty game object with a sprite on it, which is our fireball. We'll just rename it to fireball. Hit enter. Go into the prefabs folder, and then we'll drag it in. We'll drag it in. We can delete it. Notice how it's pointing to the left. Let's rotate it 90 degrees here. Yeah, it'll look like, or you can do -9. It depends however you want to point it. So we'll do it as if we're going to be like raining fire down whenever we click. So it would just be a 90 degree. You can go ahead and delete this. We got to go into the prefab, open it, and change it to 90 in here. Then Control S to save, and then there you go. Command S if you're on Mac. That'll save that. So now we got that, and we need to go inside here and drag our fireball here and save it. And when we play, you just left click the mouse and it looks like there's just fire raining down. But you notice how all these clones are filling up the hierarchy. This is what happens when you instantiate. So this is what would happen with or without the object pooling. The difference is when you go to when we go to get rid of them from the screen, we would call destroy if we weren't object pooling, but we don't want to call destroy. We're going to go and deactivate them. So that's what we're going to go ahead and get ready to do right now. So go ahead and leave that alone. And now we'll go and create a, we'll call it script here. Call it object pooler. This. Okay. Load. Come back. Unity. Double click it. It opens. Bam. It is. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to go and we're going to make an awake function. We're going to come into here, and we only want to have one object pooler instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a static variable here called private static object pooler. We'll call it instance. And then on awake, we're going to go and set the instance to this. Okay. Now, in order to access this outside of the class, there's multiple ways you can do this. You can just make this a public variable, but I like to do private variables behind the public accessors. So we'll do public properties, public static, and do an object pooler. We'll call this one instance. That, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to return instance. That's all it's going to do. And we're going to have some variables. So what we need is we want to have a public list of game objects, which are the game objects that have been actually added to this list that are actually pooled. Pooled, not pulled. Pool game objects, like this. Well, what we're going to do, real quick up here, we're going to create a smaller class. It'll be a public class. We're going to call it object pool item. Okay, here, and we're going to make it serializable, so that means it can actually be serialized out into the inspector. We can be modified in the inspector, so we'll do that. It'll hold reference to a game object. The game object will be its visual. That's your pool item. And then you have public integer for the amount to pool. And then we'll do public pool if it can expand, if we want to allow it to do more objects at one time than before. So we'll do that. So right here, we're going to go and do public list object pool item. And we'll call it object pool items. Okay. So, what we're going to do now is, that is on the awake. And then we're going to make a start function. Void We're coming in here. So on start, what we're going to do is we're going to set pool game objects to a new list of game objects. Okay, we're going to initialize it. Then we're going to do a for each loop. We're going to do for each object pool item, new item in object pool item. So for every item in there, I want you to loop through it. Do another for loop. If you press tab twice, it autofills it. And we're going to do a less than the length of the current items dot amount to pool. So we're going to go into each item in this list and we're going to go create that many of them by doing like we did before, game object, game object, object set to game object, and then we'll do instantiate. We don't have to worry about position right now. We can just do instantiate the item pool item. So we're going to instantiate the game object associated with it. And then now we're going to set that object to false, which means now it's in the hierarchy, but we don't want it to show. And then we're going to do pooled game objects, add it there. So we did a little bit of code so far and make sure it's working. We'll save it, go back into Unity, game controller, make sure the object pooler is there. Let it compile. This, like this. And then what we're going to do is object pool items expanded down. Go ahead and put one in there. Set the element that we want to do. We want to go into the prefabs folder. So like this. Drag your fireball into the first game object. We want to allow up to 10. And we can't expand it just yet. Alright, so that's where we're at now. So what that's going to do is that should expand, that should just drop. 10 of them in the hierarchy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Awesome. Well, that's not going to do anything related to this, but I'm going to show you how we go about that right now. So we'll go back into the script, and we're not going to need the update function. We're going to make another function. This one is going to be a public function. Game object. You're going to return a game object. Get pool object. And this will be based on a tag that we give it. Okay. So by default, we'll just set it down here to where it returns null. So it'll throw away that error. By default, it'll be null. We didn't do anything. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do for, and then we're going to loop through our current game objects, okay, that we have in the hierarchy. That's what we're going to do. We're going to loop through those. And then inside of here, we're going to say if pooled game objects I dot I dot, oh, that's what I did. Okay. So if it's active in the hierarchy, we want to check to see if it's not active in the hierarchy. So if it's turned off, and that current item pool game objects I, if its tag is equal to the passed in tag. So we're going to go and set the tag. We're going to come in here. We're going to say return pool game objects I. So what this is saying is, hey, loop through all the pooled objects. If the current object you're iterating over is not active in the hierarchy and its tag equals tag, then return it. That's all we're going to do. If that doesn't happen, we're going to go into here, make a for each loop. We're going to say object pool item in object pool item. So for every item in the object pool items we have, I want you to go in there and I want you to see if the current item dot pool item dot tag is equal to the past tense tag, and that item can expand, then what you're going to do is you're going to go into here and you're going to create a whole nother instance of a game object. Then we'll do instantiate the item pool item. Like this. And this should be a capital. One. Okay, so there we go. So it'll be object, but I had the insert key on. So then we'll set the object to false. This is pretty much just what we did at the top. It's just an extra bit of, it's just the same code. We're going to set it to false. We're going to add it to the pool game objects list. Oh, Control Z. There we go. Okay, let's click happy. And then now we're going to return the object. Save. So what's happening here? So we're going to come into here and we're going to say through all the game objects, if the current one is not active, if it's off in the inspector and the tag matches, return it. We couldn't find one, then we're going to come into here in the items and we're going to say, hey, if your tag matches this tag and you can expand, I want you to instantiate a new game object, set it to false, put it in the list and return it. And if none of those are true, return null. Just don't do anything. So we'll go back here, and instead of instantiate, what we're going to do now is, okay, now we're going to do this. We're going to do game object. We'll call it projectile set to object pooler dot instance dot get pooled object. We got to take a string, so we're going to give it fireball. So this is going to return a projectile. Oh man, I'm not typing real today. Alright, so we're going to grab that object. Now we need to see if projectile is not equal to null, because remember, this can return null. Then all you got to do is do projectile dot transform dot position is set to spawn location, and then come into here and say projectile dot set active in the hierarchy to true. And we don't need this instantiate statement anymore. We can actually comment it out. So click find a pooled object, and then if it's not null, go ahead and set its position to where the mouse is, and then go ahead and set it to true. So go ahead in here Alright, so we got one fireball. One thing we need to do, remember, it's going to be checking for a tag. So we need to come into here on the fireball, open the prefab. Instead of untag, you can go add a tag. The list is empty. Go ahead and add this and call it fireball. Save it. Go back to your fireball and set its tag right here to fireball. Now, when we come into here, we can watch the hierarchy here. It should populate with 10, and they should all be empty. Okay, now when I click, they should start lighting up and then populating. See? They're populating inside the space. And then when I left click again, it should actually create another one. Oh no, it won't, because we didn't click can expand. Now if we click it can expand, come into here and click, now it starts adding. You can see? Well, now we need to go about how getting them to where they are deactivating in the scene. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a script called destructible. So we can test it. That destructible. Hey, waiting for it. Oh. Double click it. Double click it. There we go. Okay, so now destructible. Destructible will be a mono behavior, and we want to set start to on enable. Reason we're doing this is because start only gets called once in the lifetime of the object that has this component attached to it. On enable says, hey, when this thing gets turned on, it gets enabled, I want you to run this functionality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a coroutine in here. And the only thing it's going to do is after 3 seconds of when I start, when this thing spawns, I want it just to deactivate itself. So we'll do private IEnumerator. And then we'll do self destruct. Like that. And then inside of here, all we're going to do is yield, return new, wait for seconds. And then we'll put the number 3 in here. So it's going to wait for 3 seconds, and then after 3 seconds, it's going to perform, it's going to do the rest of the code in this function, and it's going to be set active false. And that's what's going to happen on enable. And to do that, you do this dot start coroutine self-destruct. Alright, so all we gotta do now, save it, go back into Unity, go to our fireball prefab. Once it compiles, fireball, and then we're gonna add component, destructible. And we'll be able to see that in action right here. So here we go. There's going to be 10 items, and they're all going to be empty. Alright, they're all off. I'm going to click this one. It spawns. After 3 seconds, it's going to disappear. So I can do that for all of them. See how they're just disappearing after 3 seconds? This is the awesome power of object pooling. None of these are getting destroyed. They're just getting turned off. That's all that's happening. And it saves a lot of CPU usage because you're not instantiating, destroying. Instantiating, destroying. You're just toggling it on and off in code. And you see how we're going to turn expand off? We're going to turn it on. These are your pool objects, by the way. They're all here. Notice how it's 10. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spam all the way up to 10, and then I'm going to click once to 11, and then it's going to expand. There's 11. They're going to turn off. But notice, it does not go, you can click slow. See how I'm clicking slow? All the numbers are getting lit back up, but some of them are just getting canceled. That's just the way it's going to work. This is the power of object pooling. So, this is it. I just want to thank you guys for coming hang out for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and it kind of cleared it up as to how much faster this is versus having 10,000 fireballs in a scene all at one time. You don't have to. You can have 10,000 inactive game objects and then just spam the numbers all you want and it won't cause any issues inside the program. There's your 13. You can sit here, click, 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 until you get past 15, 17, 18, 20. That's because they still had some in that were active. So, hope you enjoyed the tutorial. In the next one, I'm going to show you how you can take this and actually put it into a scriptable object pooler instead of having it attached to this object. So, that's what I'll go ahead and do in the next video. But for now, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Look forward to doing more in the future. Y'all enjoy it. Bye.